Welcome inside Studio 6 for another edition of Inside the Inferno. I'm Tanner Buck. Alongside me is Ian King. And Ian, as we inch closer to the summer, the weather isn't the only thing heating up in the valley. So is the anticipation for Sun Devil football, as we have an all-football focused show today for you.
That's right, Tanner. Head coach Kenny Dillingham's squad is looking to build off its Sun Bowl appearance heading into next season. And don't worry, we've got you covered with all the major storylines as spring camp is underway.
Let's kick off the show with the Sun Devil 6, showcasing Sparky's top plays from this past season. Turning over to number 6 is defensive back Keith Abney with the game-sealing interception against West Virginia to give the Sun Devils their 7th win of the season. At number 5 is running back Raleek Brown, pushing his way into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown in Sparky's upset over then number 7 ranked Texas Tech. Returning at number 4 is Brown again, this time turning on the Jets against Colorado, flying down the field for an 88-yard touchdown. Brown surpassed the 1,000-yard rushing mark in the win. Going all the way for number 3 is quarterback Jeff Sims, who takes this one on a ride for an 88-yard rushing touchdown against Iowa State. He set an ASU QB single-game record with 228 rushing yards in the win. Onward to number 2 is quarterback Sam Levitt, who avoids Texas State defenders on a loft on a one-legged pass to wide receiver Jordan Tyson, who then leaps into the end zone for 6. Turning it over at number 1 is linebacker Martell Hughes with an interception in the last minute against 24th-ranked TCU on its final drive. ASU erased a 17-point deficit in the comeback win. That is all for this action-packed edition of the Sun Devil 6.
After last season concluded, former ASU quarterback Sam Levitt entered the transfer portal and announced his commitment to the LSU Tigers in January, leaving a question mark under center heading into the 2026 season. Dimitri Kurlik joins us in studio to break down what the position's outlook is in spring ball. Dimitri, with Levitt gone, who may we see playing in the fall?
Well, Ian, as expected, it's uncertain. Levitt was arguably the best quarterback Sun Devil fans have seen since at least Taylor Kelly, and maybe as far back as Jake Plummer. But now, the West Linn, Oregon native is off to the SEC, and ASU responded with almost an entire new quarterback room. The key addition the Sun Devils landed was Kentucky transfer Cutter Boley. The redshirt sophomore started in 10 games for the Wildcats in 2025, and while he showed promise, he didn't find much success for a Kentucky team that was one of the worst in its conference. The other option that could see playing time is freshman Jake Fetty. The El Paso product joined the Sun Devils the week leading up to the Sun Bowl, which was played in his hometown. Fetty is seen as someone who may not see a lot of time this season, but there is hope that he can guide the Maroon and Gold back to its success that it saw in 2024. Following the 4-star QB is Cameron Dyer. Dyer is the only Sun Devil returning from last year's roster, but he wasn't cleared until November and rode the bench under Jeff Sims after Levitt went down for the season. Finally, there's Mikey Keene. The Michigan transfer is from Chandler, and he defeated Arizona State when he was with Fresno State back in 2023. He's the most experienced option, with over 8,000 passing yards and 65 touchdowns combined in his time at Fresno State and UCF. With the subtraction of Levitt, it's the first time in 2 years that there's uncertainty surrounding the signal caller position. ASU head coach Kenny Dillingham has a strong track record of developing quarterbacks at the college level, and the hope is that at least one of these 4 will pan out in 2026.
Out of the 4 options that you listed, which ones do you think are the early candidates to be the starter once September 5th arrives?
Based on some of the reports that we've gotten from spring ball, Boley seems to be the early favorite, which makes sense. Even if Boley's 2025 season was overwhelming, he finished on the SEC's all-freshman first team, and now playing in the Big 12 conference that doesn't have the same reputation as the SEC, this can lead to Boley surprising people in conference play if Dillingham does decide to have him lead the team. Keene is also someone who may see starting time due to his experience alone. The redshirt senior is on his 4th team, and it seems likely he may get his first action since his time with the Bulldogs in 2024. Jake Fetty is someone ASU has hope about, but it may not come this fall. If the Sun Devils decide to start the season with a veteran, they could rely on their homegrown talent over the true freshman.
And earlier, Dimitri, you briefly touched on Levitt. With his departure, how much will his absence impact the team as the season begins?
His loss will be felt quite a bit. A lot of ASU fans have turned on the former Sun Devil field general after he missed the final month of the season and he didn't appear at the team banquet in December. And while his 2025 had its ups and downs, Levitt still had some outstanding performances. His best one was the field-storming victory against then number 7 ranked Texas Tech, throwing for over 300 yards and a touchdown. His athleticism was unmatched, and he made some jaw-dropping throws throughout the season, showcasing why he was considered a Heisman talent before the season and potentially a first-round pick in the near future. His legs are one of his strengths, compared to Boley, who does have potential as a pocket passer, but he can't make and improvise plays as well as Levitt does. So it will indeed be a tall task to replace his production.
Thanks, Dimitri, for the information on what the QB room looks like for ASU as we inch closer to the 2026 season.
Now that we have a better understanding of the team's QB room, our Emma Wakefield tells us who replaced wide receiver Jordan Tyson's production.
ASU football has some serious roster changes for the 2026 season, including the wide receivers. It wasn't too hard for the Sun Devils to acquire transfers thanks to Jordan Tyson's growth and success with the program. But with new prospects comes competition.
And I think bringing the guys that we brought in really elevated everybody level as far as competition. They always say competition brings out the best in everyone. And I think overall, as a unit, I think we've done that.
Even in the spring, it's a battle for starting positions, especially in the receivers room. Wide receiver coach Hines Ward said the biggest thing he and Kenny Dillingham preach is competition. When looking at prospects, first up is senior Omarion Miller, a transfer from Colorado just like Tyson. He completed 66 receptions for 1,258 yards and 10 touchdowns with the Buffaloes. Next up is junior Reed Harris, a transfer from Boston College who started all 12 games last season, tallying 39 catches for 673 yards and 5 touchdowns. When asked about Harris, Coach Ward didn't want to say too much just yet.
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. He's got a long ways to go. He's terrible. He's terrible. He's not what I thought he would be. No, he's awesome, man. He's been amazing just to work with. All the guys, just his size alone, I mean, that's a dominant trait you just can't teach.
Both Miller and Harris have been the talk for potential starters in the fall, but sophomore Raiden Vines-Bright is an extremely versatile player. He's a transfer from Washington who decided to come back to his home state of Arizona, where he originally ran track for Corona del Sol. With several new transfers comes competition, and the Sun Devils will use their competitive nature as they battle for starting positions come fall. In Tempe, Emma Wakefield, Inferno Intel.
Staying with transfers, Isabella Press joins us at the desk to discuss notable additions for the portal. Isabella, thank you for being here. And what impact do these defensive transfers bring to the team?
Yeah, with several key departures on defense, you're getting immediate impact from these transfers, especially with linebacker Owen Long from Colorado State. He led the entire FBS in total tackles and tackles per game last season, finishing with 151 total tackles along with 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Long earned first-team All-Mountain West honors while also being named third-team All-American. For ASU, he adds a strong presence in the middle and helps improve its run defense right away.
With injuries plaguing the defense and game-changing blunders like the Mississippi State walk-off touchdown last season, ASU looks to improve from its 57th ranked yards per game at 357.5. What can these additions change with the defense?
Yeah, it really gives them more flexibility, especially in the secondary, and Lyric Rawls is an example of that. At Kansas, he recorded 73 total tackles, with 53 of those being solo stops. Along with an interception and 7 pass breakups, it's clear he can help in both run support and coverage. Having a safety like that allows the defense to be more aggressive while still staying solid on the back end.
The Maroon and Gold lost Keith Abney in the draft for next season. Who's the next best guy for the job, and who could possibly fill his shoes?
Cornerback Ashton Stamps is a potential candidate. He brings experience from LSU. In over 3 seasons, he appeared in 27 games with 17 starts, totaling 75 tackles and 16 pass breakups. During his second season as a Tiger, he was ranked number 3 in the SEC in passes defended. Playing in the SEC means he's faced top-level competition consistently. So he comes in skilled and ready. Adding that kind of experience at corner should help stabilize the secondary.
Thank you, Isabella, for joining us to cover new ASU additions to the Sun Devil defense. Arizona State finished second in the Big 12 in rushing yards per game last season with 194. Since then, the top 4 Sun Devil rushers have left Tempe, opening the door to a new era in the Sun Devil backfield. Currently set to highlight the halfback room is returning junior Kyson Brown, who was medically redshirted after suffering a season-ending ankle injury against Mississippi State in September. Demarius Robinson and Jason Brown Jr. saw limited action last season, but are prepared to be more involved in the offense. The two capped off the Maroon and Gold's 2025 season with a 281 combined scrimmage yard performance against Duke in the Sun Bowl, giving ASU a legitimate rotation to complement its quarterback in 2026. Two more intriguing prospects in the Sun Devil backfield are 4-star Carde Mack and Delaware State transfer Marquise Gillis. Mack comes from the well-renowned Atascocita High School in Humboldt, Texas, where he totaled over 3,600 scrimmage yards and 52 touchdowns to etch his name in program history, becoming the school's all-time leading rusher and touchdown scorer. Meanwhile, Gillis is making the transition from FCS to FBS after totaling for 1,150 yards and 7 touchdowns for the Hornets. With almost too many halfback prospects to juggle, it'll be interesting to see how the competition develops as the summer goes on.
The Sun Devils had some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball last season. The Maroon and Gold were ranked 3rd in the Big 12 in rushing yards allowed per game with 124 and allowed 233 passing yards per game. Linebackers Jordan Crook led the team with total tackles with 101 at 6th in the Big 12. Linebacker Keyshawn Elliott led the team in total sacks with 7 and second on the team with 98 tackles. The two linebackers held it down in the middle for ASU. Defensive back Keith Abney was second in the conference in the Big 12 with pass breakups and 2 interceptions. Abney was one of the most versatile defensive backs in the Big 12 last year, with his awareness knowing where the ball was going to be at all times. The Maroon and Gold has some holes to fill next season with Abney, Crook, and Elliott all declaring for the draft.
With a complete roster overhaul during the offseason, Coach Kenny Dillingham has been finding new ways to rally the team together and create unfound chemistry for the team. Our Amaya Zapian has more from Tempe on how the team has been uniting and performing during spring scrimmages so far.
While the Masters wrapped up in Augusta, Arizona State football spent their weekend working hard on its own swing. Building a culture where competing hard and having fun still goes hand in hand. 4 years into Kenny Dillingham's tenure, and that mindset continues to define spring practice. Whether it's friendly golf-inspired competition or challenging drills, he believes the best way to build this team is by making players enjoy their work.
Football is supposed to be fun. It is fun, right? Can fun also be difficult? Right? Depends on how you look at it. So our practices should be challenging. But through that challenge, it should be fun to push yourself to become better.
That approach has helped the Sun Devils culture, but after Saturday's scrimmage, Dillingham made it clear the team still has work to do. Missed tackles, costly penalties, and breakdown of both sides of the ball showed a lack of discipline that left Dillingham frustrated.
Too many penalties, especially in critical situations. Too many missed tackles, right? Too many things that we've tried to correct that we haven't been able to correct. So it was just, when you have a day just sloppy all around, both sides of the ball sloppy. We gotta get a lot fixed.
The energy was there, but the execution wasn't, and Dillingham did not hold back when evaluating what he saw.
That was a bad football scrimmage. Too many penalties, explosive runs, missed tackles, not picking up pass pro. I mean, that wasn't a good day for Sun Devil football. Good effort, good intent. But our staff, we didn't prepare our guys good enough to come out here.
With a few hiccups so far, the focus now shifts to fixing those mistakes before the season arrives. With spring practice being open to the public, the Sun Devils have more opportunities to sharpen details while continuing to build the culture Dillingham wants. For ASU, having fun is part of the formula, but cleaning up the mistake determines how far culture can take them. For Inferno Intel, I'm Amaya Zapian.
Ian, with the NFL draft starting next Thursday, what players highlight Arizona State's draft-eligible prospects?
Well, Tanner, obviously the exclamation mark on this year's Sun Devil prospect class is wide receiver Jordan Tyson. The redshirt junior accumulated 136 receptions, 1,812 yards, and 19 touchdowns through his 2 years in Tempe. The initial reaction was that Tyson would be the first receiver drafted in the class, but injury concerns from both his time at Colorado and his recent hamstring injury that caused him to be sidelined caused Tyson to fall slightly down the board. Tyson hasn't met with many teams so far, but is hosting a private workout today since he didn't meet with any teams at ASU's Pro Day or at the NFL Combine back in March. Next up on my list is Keyshawn Elliott, who tallied 163 tackles, 9 sacks, and 1 interception through his 2 seasons in the Valley. According to NFL.com, Elliott's currently slated to be a day 3 pick, but what about you, Tanner? Who are 2 of your biggest ASU prospects that NFL teams need to take a look at?
Yeah, Ian, some other names that come to mind for me are for the Sun Devils are offensive tackle Maxi Ichanahor, and who I mentioned earlier, cornerback Keith Abney. Staying at 6'6", 330, Ichanahor proved to be a complete asset for the offensive line in the rushing and passing attack. His ability to keep a solid base and quick feet were a big factor in keeping a clean pocket for Sam Levitt in the last 2 years. In 484 snaps, he only gave up 14 pressures on the quarterback. Ichanahor also played a pivotal role in being the lead blocker on big runs for running backs in his 2 years playing. Last year, he earned all Big 12 second-team honors.
Arizona State has one of the most unique schedules in the Big 12 for the 2026 season. Tanner, what are two of the biggest matchups that fans and viewers alike should circle on their calendars?
Ian, there's some exciting games that I would circle on this Sun Devil schedule. The first one that jumps out to me is the second game of the season in College Station against Texas A&M. Arizona State has a difficult test on the road against one of the best teams in college football last year. The Aggies made it to the college football playoff and had over 60% of their roster returning, including quarterback Marcel Reed and running back Ruben Owens. Sparky's squad has only played Texas A&M once, losing 38-17 in 2015. The week after is another one that has much appeal, mostly with the distance and the location. For the first time ever, college football will take place in London at Wembley Stadium, taking on Kansas in the Union Jack Classic. Strangely enough, the Sun Devils defeated the Jayhawks in their first ever Big 12 home game. Ian, what did you have in mind for this upcoming season with the games?
Well, Tanner, first on my watch list is the game against Texas Tech on October 17th. The Sun Devils infamously upset the Red Raiders in a 26-22 thriller to give them their only loss of the regular season in 2025. Cincinnati transfer quarterback Brendan Sorsby, who threw 27 touchdowns with an 11th ranked QBR, is the projected starter in Lubbock. And obviously, Tanner, it's never too early to anticipate the annual Territorial Cup against Arizona. The Wildcats defeated the Sun Devils in last season's iteration of the T-Cup in Tempe, and Sparky will look to reclaim this title down south in Tucson again, like he did in 2024.
We now go to Adam Cunin, who gives us an outlook into next season with his signature segment, Cunin's Keys.
Thanks, Tanner. Spring ball is almost wrapped up, but there's still a few months ahead of Arizona State's first game next September. Before then, the Sun Devils will need to find solutions to a few lingering questions heading into next season. So here are a few keys for the Sun Devils if they hope to once again be in contention for a Big 12 title. First up, the Sun Devils will need to develop an offensive identity. When you think back to last year's team and that offense, what's one thing that comes to mind in regards to an identity? It really felt like they never truly committed to the running game, and they could never develop a consistent short passing game to where they could spread it out to playmakers other than just wide receiver Jordan Tyson. And so you were left with an offense that didn't have an identity, was heavily reliant on quarterbacks Sam Levitt and Tyson. And don't get me wrong, those guys were good, but it really never felt like the offense was firing on all cylinders relative to the expectations it had. So with all these new weapons, what will the offense look like? That remains to be seen. But they need to develop an offensive identity early, and part of that identity actually relates to this next key, figuring out who is under center. Yes, after 2 years, Sam Levitt is now an LSU Tiger, and now ASU has to figure out who will be its next signal caller. There's a solid mix of young guys and vets, and I think quarterback Cutter Bully has a slight edge for the moment, but I think the job is anyone's to win. Keep in mind, the Sun Devils have to go to Texas A&M in week 2, so it's a difficult start to the season for whoever's taking over the starting job, but it's something that certainly needs to be established in the months to come. And finally, reestablish a physical edge. I talked earlier about the identity of the offense, but how about the identity of the team as a whole? At times like last year, it felt like ASU was lacking the same physicality and toughness that made it so successful in 2024 when it won a Big 12 championship. We'd see head coach Kenny Dillingham practically begging his team for more physicality and practically calling out his team for lacking an edge. Maybe this was a byproduct of high expectations going into last year, but the Sun Devils are back in the role of the underdog, and maybe it's for the best. Fueled by lower expectations on the outside, I'm sure that they'll be hungry to prove any and all doubters wrong next fall, and it starts with adopting a mentality to be more physical and tougher. Guys?
Thank you, Adam. And with that, that will do it for a Football Frenzy-themed episode of Inside the Inferno. Tanner, it was awesome to share the desk with you today.
Ian, it's been a pleasure. If you want to keep up with everything Arizona State athletics, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and X at Inferno Intel. and check out our website at infernointelmedia.com. For Ian King, the rest of our cast, and the crew behind the scenes, I'm Tanner Buck saying so long from Phoenix, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Inside the Inferno.